All right, let's talk about the Green Inferno, which you're going to be very confused on that title unless you know what Cannibal Holocaust working title was. So I took my buddy to see this in theaters, and he had never heard of it. And he was like, "What is this movie?" And I didn't tell him anything. I was just like, "Oh, it's just, it's like a serious drama." And he was like, "Oh, okay." So we went into the theater. And because this movie takes a while to get to the horror elements of it, like they don't even get to the Peruvian village for like 45 minutes, 50 minutes of the movie. But once like they started hacking this guy up and pulling him apart and everything, my buddy like slowly looks, and I was like slowly looking over at him like, and he slowly looked over at me and he was like, "This ain't no fucking drama, is it?" That was amazing. I've taken my buddy, that guy, to a bunch of movies where he just trusts that I've picked the movie and he's like fine with going in completely blind. So yeah, he had zero idea what this movie was going to be about, but he had a fun time. He enjoyed it. Now, of course, unlike him, there are plenty of people out there with any Eli Roth movie. I don't care what movie he made, they're just going to hate it just outright, just because he has any involvement in it. Yeah, there are people that don't like this movie because they don't like this movie, but there are Eli Roth haters. Like, don't make any mistake about it, or make no mistake about it, I guess is the way that's said. He's got his haters, and they just, as soon as his name is attached to anything, they're like, "I hate it." Okay. This film, I mean, I think maybe where his films, like outside of something like Knock Knock, I think where his films lose the audience, the ones that don't like him and don't like, because I've been thinking about this, like, why don't people like Eli Roth? What's going on with this? I think it's the hype train, A. And B, I think it's the bizarre blending of genres. So he has this very exploitive, hard R, serious tone to his films, but also kind of almost like a juvenile, Sam Raimi-esque comedic element that doesn't really bode well for a lot of people because they don't know how to take a film like Hostel, like The Green Inferno. You know, you have these like very serious themes, and there's a lot of serious stuff going on in them. And then you just have really silly moments, silly characters, like the scene in this where the dude's yelling, "They've got the munchies!" And they're like yelling. That's a laughable scene. It's intended to be laughable. But I think people take it as he's trying to be serious and it's coming across as laughable, or this is laughable and this isn't the time to insert that kind of laughable part of the movie. So that's what essentially is what, because I think like there is this hype train that kind of comes with Eli Roth. Oh my God, this is the most violent, the craziest movie ever made. So, what kind of audience does that attract exactly? What kind of audience wants to go see the sickest, most hardcore movie? A very specific audience, right? And that audience wants that shit delivered on. Otherwise, they're not going to be happy. And while the content within Hostel, like the setup, all that stuff, is extremely dire, is extremely sick and twisted and disturbing. What is actually shown is fairly minimalistic. This isn't hardcore gore-rama. This isn't the super dark, disturbing, graphic, violent, on-screen violence like people may have expected. Same goes for this movie. Now, There, of course, will be extremely sensitive people, or just maybe the common theater goer, that would watch something like The Green Inferno or Hostel and think this is just outrageously violent and way over the top, right? So I think to the casual moviegoer, it delivers on those promises. But I think the audience that it's trying to appeal to are people who want something absolutely insane, something you could never get into a movie theater, not even close. And as I said, I think you're also blending a lot of people who like those kinds of movies and are going to see something along those lines, don't like comedy inserted in. They want it to be truly disturbing, something that really is sick, something that is really, really vile, that has no levity of any sort. So I think that's my assumption. That is my guess after having analyzed it or thought about it for a little time here. That is what I've come up with. So what do you guys think? Why do you think Eli Roth is so maligned as he is? Why is the audience so split on him? Am I onto something, or am I absolutely insane? Both could be true. That's always an option as well. All right, so The Green Inferno. Now, this was filmed out in this, freaking Peruvian, like indigenous. They filmed this with like an indigenous tribe, and the people who were put on the film he wouldn't even audition people unless they were willing to get vaccinated for like yellow fever and all these things, and people were like getting sick out there, and there was a lot of behind the scenes mayhem, and a lot of like the cast and crew, like some of the crew quit like first day because they were like, hell no, not under these conditions. And then they went out there and they got this tribe, which they'd never seen a movie, they'd never seen people basically outside of their tribe, went and he showed them Cannibal Holocaust, and they thought it was a comedy and loved it, and we're like, okay, we'll star in your movie, this is awesome. The whole behind the scenes stuff is really, really interesting, and I think that if you don't appreciate some of that, you'll lose a greater appreciation for the film, because the behind the scenes stuff, to me, while I do think the end result of your film should be good regardless of how it was made, when I do enjoy the film, and even maybe when I don't, I respect the film more for the conditions in which it was made under. Like, holy shit. Like, if you ever look up the story behind how the Dead movie was made, that the Ford brothers zombie flick, like, man, those guys seriously risked lives there. There's a lot of movies like that. That one with like the lions or the tigers or whatever in like the 70s, I think it's referred to as like the most dangerous movie ever made, and all these, like, that's wild stuff. Now, if the movie's terrible, does that really matter? No, but you can respect the film more. You can be a very intriguing story to tell. But I think that when it's a movie that I do enjoy, like The Green Inferno, which I do like, I don't love this movie, but I do quite like it. I do think where this film lacks is in the delivery of said violence. I think that a film like this is really dependent upon the gore that it displays, because that's the audience it's going after. And when you don't deliver on it, like I had been saying, you're going to lose a good amount of your audience. Now, I'm not lost because of this. I just think that it is a little bit of a flaw. You could have had, there was a lot of people here for this tribe to kill off, and I think we only get like 2 on-screen deaths that are committed by the tribe. It's not a lot. I mean, this could have been an absolute massacre. And it doesn't also bode well to know that when Eli Roth sent in The Green Inferno to have it rated by the MPAA, they sent it back with an R rating. Like, cut of the film that he wanted is the film that got in, which is just crazy to me. Because a film like this, as graphic as it should have been sent back like 7 times of like, holy shit. And then the director's cut, like the ultimate uncensored director's cut, should have just been like, oh my God, I can't believe they even sent this to the MPA. This is so insane. But that's just not how this film is. That's not to say this film isn't fun. That's not to say this film isn't good, because I do enjoy it. I do understand why people might not like it, especially this is a very specific subgenre. Cannibal movies, stuff like that. But I do like it. I do like it quite a bit. I just, there are some lacking parts. And much like Knock Knock, where Keanu Reeves' performance was, not favorable in my original initial thoughts of the film. This film, I had the exact same kind of response to with Sky Ferreira's character in this movie, who was originally kind of paraded around as like a main character of the film, which she clearly is not at all. She's very, very secondary character of the movie. She doesn't even go with them. I remember in the first time, I thought her character was, like, not her character, I thought her acting was horrendously awful. Like, I was sitting there embarrassed in the theater for her. Like, oh my God, I hope she never fucking tries to act again. And then I saw her in another movie, not that long after, maybe a year or two or so later. And I thought she was really good in it. In fact, I didn't even realize it was her. Lords of Chaos, right? That's the one. That's way later then. I thought it was something else, but now in my brain I'm like, wait, isn't it Lords of Chaos? I swear she's in it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Whatever it was, I was like, oh, I thought she was pretty damn good in this. Interesting. I'll be curious to check out her performance in Green Inferno again. I think what it was, now I'm not saying it's a good performance. I'm just saying it's not a bad performance. It's just exactly what I guess it should be. I think the reason why I thought it was so bad is because she's that kind of girl in this that I can't stand. She's annoying as fuck to me. And so I saw that as a bad performance, but then when I went to look at it again, I was like, oh, she's just playing that annoying bitch that I can't stand being around. Like, everything to her is lame. Everything is just too much for her to handle. Like, ugh, why is there so much sun in this room? Just turn it off. And then she's talking about it, and she's like, activism's so gay. And like, she's one of those people that I remember, it kind of reminds me of, in, 21 Jump Street, I want to say, when Channing Tatum's character is going to the school and he's trying to show how he's like going to be the cool guy in school, and he goes up to him and he's like, yeah, man. He's like, you try? How lame, bro. Trying is so gay. Something along those lines. Like, she's that kind of person. I know people like that. They just think that you even bothering with anything is super lame. It's like, Jesus Christ, like, that's how you're going to live your life? Like, being interested in anything, trying to do anything, trying to make a difference, trying to have an opinion, anything like that is just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You're an idiot. So yeah, I want to say that that's kind of why. Now, on this viewing, now I haven't seen this movie since I'd seen that movie, so that's why this would, of course, make sense on why I've never compared the two. But this movie reminded me very, very much of one movie. And I was actually pretty surprised when I was watching it that I've never seen anyone bring up the comparison. That movie's Midsommar. This has a very similar feel to Midsommar as far as like the story goes. You know? Like, just elements of it were really reminding me of it. And especially like towards the end when they like dress her up almost like the May Queen, and at the very end she kind of I don't want to say, because I don't like the ending of this movie. I think that's my only issue with the film. And that's like a problem for me. It's not so much I disagree with it, I straight up just reject it. There's no fucking way, man. Like, I get it. She went out there to protect these people, and now she's coming back and she's gonna do that. Because what? Because she has a commitment to helping these people, or because she wants to save that kid, she thinks that kid's gonna get killed, or what? But the fact that she covers for these people and makes sure that they don't go out there and hurt them, what? Fuck that. Fuck that. These kinds of people right there, an indigenous tribe of cannibals who maim and murder. Now, I guess they say that they think that they're part of the people who are trying to drive them out of their land, so this is why they're doing it. Bullshit. They'd do this to anybody. I just don't buy it otherwise. They would do this to anybody. So, her covering for them, like, she could have went over there with that optimistic, want to save the world kind of ideology. And then much like in Rambo, you know, the fourth movie in the Rambo franchise, like that Christian, you know, whatever the hell the peace, I don't know. They're I forget what they call those people. I'm blanking on what those are called. But those guys who go out there and they try to help those places, and then, you know, Rambo's like, you know, do you have any guns? And he's like, no. Then he's like, then you're not fucking solving anything. And he's like, violence is never the answer. And even after they were saved by him, you know, the first time, and he's like, what did you do? You know, you're an asshole. You killed these people. Violence is never the answer. And he throws him up against the wall, which I can't even imagine how that didn't hurt that actor. That guy gets violently hit against that wall. He's just like, you know, who the fuck are you? They would have raped her, you know, 10 fucking times and slit her fucking throat, cut her fucking head off, all this stuff. And then at the end of the movie, he has a total change of heart. He kills somebody, you know, which is very obvious that it's going to happen, but it is almost cathartic because you see somebody coming to the reality of something. Like, your set of beliefs were wrong. These indigenous people are a fucking cancer. Like, these guys gotta go. Like, anybody who's going to brutally, and I mean fucking brutally, because there is one scene that absolutely delivers in this movie, and that's the first kill with the first kill from the tribe. The big, fat freaking dude. He's not that fat, but he's a big dude. When he digs his eyes out, cuts his tongue out, eats it in front of him while he's still alive, then cuts off his arms and his legs, and then slices his head off, and then packs him, cooks him, eats him, and then kills one of their friends and fucking feeds it to them and all this. Those people are beyond saving. Those people should not exist. You're talking about murderers. And people are going to argue this all day. Oh, that's just not their customs. It's not their way. This and that. Fuck that. Fuck that nonsense. No way. I would lay waste to this whole fucking village. Absolutely not. Oh, they're not accustomed to our values or some bullshit. No fucking way. A cannibal tribe like that brutally tortures. Like, would we deal with, like, if we found out anybody did that here in our world, would we be lenient on them? Would we be like, oh yeah, we need to save this person. This person's, you know, like, they need to be protected. And fuck no, we wouldn't. We'd throw them in the gas chamber in like 1 second flat. Just no, I disagree. Anybody's going to argue with me on this, go ahead. But I fucking disagree. These people should be wiped off the face of the fucking planet. Jesus Christ, man. There's no coming back from that. You couldn't take these people and rehabilitate them and try to show them, you know, the modern day way. Like, these people, you're talking about cannibalistic tribes that put people up on pikes, cut heads off and stick them around. I guess they're warnings, right? Trying to ward these people off. But they take all of the people in the planes and they stick them on the spikes. Homage to Cannibal Holocaust. There's something seriously wrong with these minds. They're sick. And plus, you can't eat humans, by the way. This is something that we really, really rarely touch upon in film. You can't have like a balanced cannibalistic diet. You start to get very ill. You can't eat humans like for a long period of time without developing serious physical issues. I just feel like this is almost never addressed in any film. It's like mad cow disease. You can't fucking feed an animal. It's the same animal. That's just not how that works. So these guys would be very, very sick. Anyway, but there are cannibalistic tribes, right? I'm curious on how fucked up they are. I have to look into that. But as far as I'm aware, you cannot eat other humans and be 100%. Like you would get very ill. I forget what they call, like what they get. They get like the shakes, and they get like all sorts of weird like mental or brain problems or something. Someone let me know. Anyway. And then of course we have the villain of the movie, who is Alejandro. So we got Justine, played by Eli Roth's wife here. What's her freaking name? Or Lorenza Izzo, who I really like. I really like her in this. I really like her in Knock Knock as well. Obviously a much, much different character. I like her performance. Good actress. Beautiful woman. Good actress. I like her as a leading lady. Alejandro is a joke, and he's like almost too awful to be real. In fact, he is too awful to be real. Like, I think Eli Roth took this character just a little too much into one direction. Like, he's so one-dimensional. He's so unbelievably god-awful that you're just dying for this guy to be executed at any moment in the movie. Like, the scene where he starts jacking off in front of everybody, that's purely Eli Roth. That's pure what the fuck is going on. Like, what in the hell am I watching right now? That's the kind of scenes where I'm saying where things just go into that silly territory where in the they got the munchies kinds of things where they're like, am I supposed to be taking this movie seriously? Because that is ridiculous. That is so silly. That is so stupid. And I get that. The jacking off stuff and all that. Now, I don't mind it because I find it to be comical, and I don't mind the comedy inserted in here. But does it start to take away from the seriousness of the movie? 100%. But I think the levity is on purpose because of how dark the subject matter is. So it's like his, I don't know, like his way to kind of balance it out. Like, I don't want to go too dark, too depressing. Like, I'm going to get you a little bit of humor because he has that kind of silly sense of humor to him. And it shows throughout all of his films. There's so much shit I wrote down here. It's hard to say it all. It's really hard to say it all. I've been already talking for 25 minutes and I haven't even touched my notes. I like that they bring up female circumcision in this movie because of just how unbelievably terrible I think that practice is. Now, there's people that argue that, circumcision on men is just as awful. Bullshit. Is it genital mutilation? Okay, maybe. I'll listen to that argument. Should it be done? I don't know. Maybe not. I'm sure there's people out there that are advocates. I know there are people out there that are like, no, they shouldn't be done. That's how the human body is. That's how it should be. Okay, I'm fine with that. I'm not saying we should do it. But to compare the two, to compare a little fucking snip on a child that barely knows what's going on, this and that, to taking like a 12, 13-year-old girl basically against her will. Now, some of them see it as this like rite of passage and this. I don't give a fuck what they think in that moment. Trust me, they're in agony. They bound their legs and they fucking die. Like, so many of them die from infections. They've outlawed this, but they still do it in like Africa and some Middle East countries and all this. That's the true horror of this movie, because you know that stuff happens in mass numbers still to this day all over the world. And just the reasoning why and all that stuff. Like, everything about it is horrifying. Absolutely horrifying. Imagine having your clitoris. I mean, I don't have a clitoris, but I have a dick, so I can kind of imagine like having the head of my dick cut off. I think that would be pretty much the equivalent. So you think like having the head of your dick cut off is the equivalent of having the foreskin removed? No, it isn't. Not even close. Cutting a girl's fucking clitoris off and then sewing her up and then binding her legs together for months and letting her die of an infection. And it's just... And then like the whole idea of like, you know, the woman shouldn't experience pleasure and all this, like the reasoning behind it and all that is... We just live in that world still. We live in that world right now. This isn't something you hear a story of and you're like, Jesus Christ, people were crazy back then. There ain't no back then. Like someone had genital mutilation, a female circumcision today, guaranteed, 100%. Somebody had it done today. He's probably getting it done right now as I'm saying this. That is so angering to me. I don't even know what to say. Anyway, but yeah, it's interesting. They touch upon it here, and then they're gonna do it here on Justine after they find out that she's a virgin. Man, yeah. And yeah, imagine having to take a machete and a gun to take a piss. We even see a half cock in this. You don't see enough cocks in movies. I talk about this enough. People are gonna really start to think I'm homosexual. I don't really care, to be honest. I always find that odd when people say, I mean, I get why they do, because some people are just, or actually a lot of people are so easily offended by ridiculous things. But as a hairdresser, people will come in and they'll be like, oh my God, like don't be offended, but I thought you were gay. And it's like, don't be offended? Like, that's some slanderous thing. Like, oh my God, you thought it was gay? How horrible. How could you think I was such a horrible person? Like, it's so weird that people apologize for that. Or if you ask, or if you like think someone's gay, they're like, how could you? And it's like, it's not really that big of a deal. Like, I do sit there and go, do I act gay? Really? Huh. I don't feel like I act gay in the slightest. Like the traditional, I guess there's nothing traditional. But just kind of the very obvious, flamboyant kind of attributes of a homosexual, like that real obvious gay guy. There are people that have watched this channel and they're like, I thought you were gay. Gay? Really, me? As I said, I don't give a fuck. It doesn't offend me. I'm just more kind of baffled. Like, I mean, I just gush over tits and women in every review. They think it's a cover, I guess. I don't know. All right, let's speed this up. I got other reviews to get to. It's just so much to say. Like, the girlfriend setting her up because she wants to. The girlfriend of Alejandro sets her up with Alejandro because they use her status, because her dad, her dad's position, and just like what the, oh man, all of that stuff. Like, I remember when he's sitting at the table and he's like, if any of you want to back out, like, you could die. They could have guns. They'll have guns. We won't. This and that. Like, if you want to back out, now's the time. And everyone's like, oh no, I'd be the first person. I mean, I wouldn't be there in the first place, to be completely honest. But even if I was, I'd be the first person to be like, okay, I'll go home. I'm not gonna fucking die for this. I'm not gonna get shot over this. It's ridiculous. And then a small plane crash. That's probably one of the scariest parts of this movie. The actual like plane crash itself kind of reminds me of that movie Alive, when they're like spinning and they're all falling. The guy's vomiting on his face. I mean, you want to talk about one of my top 3 favorite, biggest fears. dying in a plane crash. Like, it's just such a horrible thought to me of just falling into this impending doom and just not being able to do anything about it and just being terrified the whole way down. It just, ugh, I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And to sit around and listen and like to be able to smell your friend cooking on a like in a little clay oven there. Even if you survived this, you would. They say that smell is connected to memory more than any other sense. So that's like something you would never ever forget for the rest of your life, what your friends smelled like while they were cooking. And then finding out that you ate your girlfriend. That girl slits her throat immediately. That is one of the most realistic reactions I've ever seen. That was fantastic. She just sees the tattoo in there and then just breaks the thing, slits her own throat. And then they pack her with drugs and they use the, you know, the cooking and then everyone gets stoned. That shit's awesome. It's funny. It's ridiculous. I love it. I love the whole stoner thing and they got the munchies and they eat them and stuff. That's great. I wish we would have saw more of it though, to be honest. Like I would have liked to see like some Day of the Dead, I hope you choke on it kind of shit. Where they're ripping them apart limb for limb, pulling the guts out of them and whatnot. That's what we went for. Oh man, and it's Alejandro's fault that this happens to this guy, the Munchies guy. He fucking takes one of those darts and sticks it in his ass, and he's like, sorry, like he's staying behind with me. Like, Alejandro is the worst, the absolute worst. And he's not even like charming, attractive to me at all. He's so phony. He's so annoying. He's so goofy. The fact that Justine has any interest in him. I'm not saying it's unbelievable. I just look at him like, really? This guy? This guy's such a fraud. This guy's so full of shit. This guy's so silly. This guy's so ridiculous. You're fighting over this clown when men like me are single? Come on now. Come on, Justine. I wouldn't take you out into the Peruvian freaking jungle to be eaten. I'd take you right into my bedroom to be eaten. Yeah. That's why I'm single. Because that's the kind of shit I say to women. All right. The scene where she falls into the river, and that was terrifying to watch. And then I read that she almost drowned. And I was like, it looked like it. 100%. So when I read that, it made perfect sense to me. I was like, that looked terrifying. She gets, oh man, they put this shit all over that guy and they break all of his bones in his body and then let these ants just sting the shit out of every part of his body, and she comes in his whole face and everything's swollen. That guy would have been in agony, and they're punishing him for running away. Like, and then he's like, kill me, and then the kid's like, I'll do it. And he's brutal stuff, man. But that's the kind of stuff that I don't think gore hounds would see as brutal. They'd be like, oh, that was lame. And it's like, you got to really think about that. Like, these guys just smashing your limbs, breaking, you know, like freaking Annie Wilkes in Misery, clubbing your feet. Like, just breaking legs, breaking arms, breaking ribs, all this shit, and then throwing a bunch of ants all over your body to eat at you. Oh my God. I mean, it doesn't look that horrifying on film, but just thinking about how that would all feel, yeah, you'd be screaming, kill me too. Trust me. Then she runs up after she kind of gets away. The kid helps her, and she's trapped between a black leopard and this kid. She like gets past this guy. I would have liked to see that thing pounce on one of those freaking villagers. I'm sure they didn't have the budget for this, so that's probably why. But then she goes in, and this is where the movie goes silly, south for me. Like, she goes in, she protects the village. She comes out with the camera, filmo. Is that really how I say film in this language? Filmo? That sounded some racist ass shit to me. Like, just put an O on the end of anything, and it's, you know, it's some kind of a Mexican language, you know? Like, that's what it felt like. It's like, filmo? Is that really how you say it? I'm sure it is. I just was laughing. I was like, filmo? But anyways, yeah, she puts up the camera, American, and then she goes back and she's like, oh no, it's not even like she covers for them. She straight up makes them seem like they're amazing. Like, never did I feel any hostility towards me. I never saw any cannibalistic behavior. All my friends died in the accident, all this stuff. If anyone went and investigated, they find out in 5 seconds this chick was full of shit. All you'd have to do is get some guys out there, and you see a bunch of people up on pikes. Like, how's she going to explain that when they go to find the fucking crew, when they find the wreckage of the plane and they see everyone up on pikes? Who did that? The leopard? Did he go out there and put the fucking sticks up their asses? Anyway. All right. And then the whole Alejandro's alive in like the post-credit sequence, and I guess that's supposed to play into the sequel Beyond the Green Inferno, which is still in development at this point. I'd still like to see that movie. I'm not sure where the hell that would go. But I would like to watch Alejandro die a horrible death. So maybe you can just make an entire second film of his death. Just the whole thing from start to finish is watching this guy tortured. Like that movie Daddy's Little Girl, which is just like basically a dude being tortured for like an entire film. I could watch Alejandro tortured for that long. He's that awful of a character that you just want to watch him brutalized. I don't want to watch some quick death where he gets his head cut off or something. Fuck that. No, we start at the toes and we work our way up. He's that awful as a person. So yeah. There you go. I like the look of characters in this. I think that visually, it's really striking and it's very memorable. With all of them like painted up red, and then their leaders like wearing like yellow and black, and then the way they paint her up in the white with the red, and all of that. Like I think visually this movie is really cool, and I think just the undertaking of making this film in itself. This is a huge undertaking. Like, let's go out in these crazy conditions and film a film like this with people who've never even seen a movie before or not actors and all this. It's a big risk. And I think it paid off for the most part. I know a lot of people don't like it, but nice, cool flick. So, anyways, all right. That was a long-ass review. But, yeah, it is what it is. All right.